haven't seen such a beautiful bubble since I was a child. Being watched, he says. They make me laugh. And a wishbone from a duck. I have no duck, Leopold.
Can you believe that was like a recurring character on Looney Tunes back in the 50s and 60s?
Is that supposed to be Laurie?
Yeah, that's Peter Lorre.
I was like, what the hell's going on? Yeah, you can tell from the voice immediately. It's like, that was on, what was it on, DuckTales?
Looney Tunes.
Oh, Looney Tunes. Okay.
Yeah.
About to be sold by Warner Brothers very soon.
Yeah.
What an iconic character. What a guy.
I know,
Hungarian
right?
American actor. He just sort of, he inhabits a mood or something, like a vibe, and he was just there all the time.
And this is our second season finale in a row talking about a Peter Lorre movie.
Wait, what was the last? That's what I was is it M, right?
M, yeah.
Okay. I was like, wait a second. Why is he so familiar? Why does he look so, why does he look so familiar? Why does his vibe seem so, because I've seen Maltese Falcon multiple times, but there's something about it this time, an extra layer of familiarity with Mr. Peter. Hey folks, it's Film Trace. This is the podcast where we trace the life of a film from conception to production, all the way to release and reception. It is our season finale for our Visionary Remakes season, episode 8 here. We're doing pre-1960s. We're doing the Maltese Falcon from 1931, the original film, and then the, I guess, second remake of it by Warner Brothers in 1941, obviously the more famous version of the film. This one's going to be a doozy because a few reasons why. The main reason, though, is that I've never seen the 1931 version. Had you seen it before?
I hadn't, actually.
Yeah, so it's brand new to me. Ooh, it's rough.
It's very rough.
Part of that for me too, though, is that because I don't have much like with Westerns and stuff, I do not have a lot of history with them or knowledge of them. Pre-code films, I'm just like not. Anything before 1944 or 45, I'm pretty rusty on. So I don't have a lot to compare this to. But yeah, I think the 1931 version is an interesting little tidbit for this story. And then, so I'd never seen that before. The Maltese Falcon has this really grand stature. And it always has. I don't know if that, throughout our entire lives. And it has it for a couple of reasons. One, the stars of it are obviously like super big, and these are some of their best roles or best performances. It was a directorial debut, right?
Yeah.
Of Huston. So that's another sort of big thing. But I think more than anything, it's like this paradigm of noir film. Right. It's considered the first noir film, and kind of a change in direction for crime films, for murder mystery films, for police movies, and kind of shifted it in a different direction, and kind of led to the high period of noir, which would probably be like 45, 44 until the late 50s, 57, 58. So it has a massive stature to it. I have a weird history with it because I had not seen it until I started doing a noir deep dive, which I've talked about a lot on the podcast. And I didn't get it when I first saw it, maybe like 2-3 years ago. And I've watched it probably 3 or 4 times since, and I still doesn't click for me. So it's one of those things where it's gonna be an interesting episode, because I am 1000% in the minority. Like,
right.
There's nobody else out there that I've even seen remotely dislike this film.
The first step to recovery is admitting you're wrong. So.
I mean, go on to YouTube. I was doing that today. I was like, God, I feel so weird. The guy, Eddie Muller, who does Noir Alley. This is the first episode of Noir Alley, is the Maltese Falcon 1941. And so like, he's like, this is the first noir film. It's so important. It's a masterpiece. The other guy who does it, I think Ben Minkowitz, who has a really great podcast, Talking Pictures, he does kind of a similar intro about the film. Bill Hader talks about how it's brilliant and genius. Bill Burr randomly there's a sound clip about him, about how it's an amazing movie. So yeah, we'll have to dive into it and sort of, I mean, what is your relationship to the 1941 version with old Bogart.
Yeah, I mean, this one's personal to me for one particular reason. I mean, I just love the movie in general. I've watched it over and over again over the years, but I teach high school film studies, and when I did my student teaching back when I was like 21, I had a cooperating teacher, right? Like the experienced teacher whose classroom, she allowed me into to try my hand at teaching. And she had a very distinct syllabus full of classics for her film class, and the Maltese Falcon was one of them. And so like I had kind of like known roughly what noir was, especially with the film classes I'd taken in college, but I never really like taken a headfirst dive into, the history associated with them. And that was kind of life changing, was because, at first when you're student teaching, you kind of watch how that teacher teaches, and then you kind of try to, slowly kind of take over the classroom day by day. And so one of the first things I witnessed, and I didn't, we didn't have film studies at my high school, so it was kind of fun just to like sit in at first to see how she taught movies to teenagers, and especially this movie, because it's like she is, she is older, she's long retired now, but she was very much just like staunchly like, we're going to show the classics in here. Like the only movie I'm going to show you is Rob Marshall's Chicago. But otherwise it was like Stagecoach, Citizen Kane, like it was just the classics. And so when she introduced the Maltese Falcon, and she like literally she's very like animated character, like brought in the trench coat and the what kind of hat is that, a Stetson, wow. Right? Yeah. And like really like got into character, and like went over all the tropes of film noir. And I was just like, oh man. So that it kind of like opened my eyes to like what exactly this meant in terms of not only genre, but then she also gave that historical context behind it with post-war, and then connecting it back with pre-code and the Hays Code. And and obviously she showed to Casablanca as well. And so the students had already gotten predisposed to Bogart, and she went on and on about his career. And that was a formative moment for me, both as a film lover and a teacher. And so I totally remember like when we watched it in class the first time, I was just like, wait, what is happening in this movie? Like I remember being kind of entranced by the mood of it all and the cast. And that was the other thing, is like she was no nonsense, and like just like straight up being like, you see that guy, pointing to Peter Lorre, is like, that's like probably the first gay character in cinema that was whether it was subtext or not, like everybody knew that, like, oh, Peter Lorre, yeah, he's a cool but creepy gay guy. Yeah. So that was huge. Oh, sorry, my doorbell's going off at
that's a great doorbell ring. I love
what
it.
Is that about? Better not be Girl Scout cookies again. Oh my god. I'll try to ignore this. It goes on for far too long. I really hope my baby doesn't wake up. Jesus Christ, people. Okay, so that was kind of my introduction, and then as I like became fascinated with the film, I started watching it over and over again, and then I ended up teaching it. First couple of years I did film studies until I realized it was not clicking with kids. So then I switched to more like neo noir and showing clips of stuff, and I still
the
like
kids
showing.
Didn't like this one.
No. This was
interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like my cooperating teacher who taught it had definitely been teaching it for years, and so she just like had her routine, and the kids liked her enough because she was well experienced and stuff, that they got through it. But I totally get that, like, it's hugely important, but it's not going to hit for certain people, I think, especially nowadays. Even considering, I don't know, can we at least have like a first agreement that the 41 version is like somehow has a lot of the same dialogue from Dashiell Hammett's novel, and yet is like an insane improvement over the 31 version.
Yeah, I mean the 31 version is, I don't even know what you call it. It's like 70 minutes or 80 minutes. It's not messy per se. It just seems sort of thrown together. You know, I
Yeah.
think like one of the big distinctions, one of the really interesting things and great things about the 1941 version is that Huston was so obsessed with storyboarding.
Yeah.
It's his first movie, his first big break. There was a huge fight about the script itself. Warner Brothers is basically like, hey, we've already had this script. Why are you going to redo it? We have the 31
Right.
version. There's a 36 version, Satan Met a Lady. And so another remake of the same novel. But he fought really hard to, make it his own thing. And a good thing that he did do that, because like that is the saving grace of the 41 version is the script and the dialogue and the way that it's structured. And while I don't love the cinematography of it at all, it's pretty flat to me. It does sort of tick like a clock. And I think that that's what makes it almost seem like, as you're watching it, it's like one of those things where it has this inertia of motion, narrative motion, and it just kind of flows all the way to the end without a single hiccup. That's why it's a great movie, right? Like that's what makes it. It's like the workmanship, it's the writing. The 31 version just feels like, the novel comes out in 1930. They're making this adaptation in 31. I don't know that much about Roy Del Ruth, but from what I can gather, good at making bigger movies and that make some money, but there's not a lot of sort of nuance to what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, I think that's an easy thing that we can agree on, that the 1941 version is vastly superior to the 1931 version. I don't think there's anybody who would disagree with that.
Yeah. And I think that like aside from the kind of economic pacing and script fluidity of the 41 version, I mean, the other big improvement is just straight up like the cast, right? Like there's definitely a feel to the 31 version that this, like, I don't know, it makes me kind of wonder, if the 41 version didn't ever exist, would this be interesting to go back to at all? Because it's not right now. If for no other reason than to simply prove the point that, like, perhaps, I don't know, I've kind of had this belief for a while now, this is the kind of thing remakes are for, is to improve upon poor attempts of good stories.
Yeah.
It's
like the paradigm of that, right?
Yeah, and also the whole idea that, maybe not as common nowadays with how fast paced our world is, but like it was commonplace, right? When in the early days of cinema, that if a hit novel came out, it would just like automatically go into production. And that's still somewhat the case nowadays, but it does seem like if you look at some of the, best page to screen adaptations of all time, it seems like they're the ones that, let some time breathe in between and didn't necessarily just like capitalize on the success of a bestseller.
Like going back to like True Grit earlier this year, the 1969 version came out, I think, pretty close after the novel. Like almost a year after. But then something like Cape Fear, I want to say there was a few years, 1962, that novel's in the 50s, I want to say, or am I making this up? But yeah, there's definitely got to be some breathing room, right?
Yeah. So what do you think is like, because there were like John Huston was going up against a brick wall over and over again, trying to get his version of this story made. And for all intents and purposes, like you can even go back to the New York Times archives, the 31 version was successful and at least moderately well liked. It was, a product more than a piece of art, perhaps, but especially in like it's a solid story, and it's hard to look at it without the great shadow of Bogart and Mary Astor and all that. But there seemed to be some kind of like mass appreciation, if not like adoration, for this detective story. So why do you think it like it seems so obvious in retrospect that like, yeah, Huston was like, that's a piece of junk. It's got a good story. Let me try again. But it
Yeah.
seemed like that was a struggle. Why would it be a struggle?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. One is, Houston's a first time director,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's never really done it before. And you can see that, like, the budget for this, we look back on these movies and we're like, oh, the Maltese Falcon, it's a huge movie. It must have been like a big studio thing. It's not. Like, it was a
No.
low budget movie. Like, if you translate the budget, it was $381,000 back in 41. That's $8 million today.
Yeah.
That's like an indie budget at
Right.
best. So there clearly was not a lot of faith, and there's even like sort of back and forth about people early on in terms of casting, like who are we going to cast, and some people didn't want to work with a first time director because it just felt too like not stable enough. I think it's ultimately Warner Brothers has done this isn't within a decade, this is their third try in a decade.
Yeah,
like that's pretty, like we talk about like remake fatigue now, but that's pretty bad.
Yeah, you could imagine that happening today.
Yeah, the major difference, and we have to sort of contextualize it a bit, is that movie going as a leisure activity was very, very different in this time period. I mean, when I say different, I mean, I can't remember what year they were looking at, but I think it's the 30s, 40s, something like that. Right in this time period, like 65% of Americans would go to the movies once a week.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. It is the way it's the thing you do when you go out. Versus today, where the average person, as of now, post-pandemic, in America and Canada, the average person goes to the movies about 2.5 times a year.
Yeah, that's
so
insane.
it is the ascendant art form and form of entertainment back then. And this one, I think, I don't know. I think the previous attempts were, the first one was good. The second one was a disaster.
Yeah, supposedly played as a comedy. I also have that one on my DVD box set, but
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
I've not either.
Yeah.
How could it be worse than this 31 version? I don't know.
But I think that like ultimately, they saw an opportunity because so many movies are coming out and it's such a popular art form. You really can get away with just throwing, $300,000 at something and see what sticks.
Yeah.
And I think that like that's probably what they were thinking here. It's like, yeah, first time director, we'll give him a micro budget, see what he does, and then like it really the key to the whole thing is the cast, like you were saying. Like that is really the foundation of this film and why it does so well. Like Huston does his thing, well, no doubt, as a writer and director. Like he is the captain, but this film has nothing without Bogart. It just doesn't have a single thing, because
who's like a dying B star at this point.
Which I read that and I'm like, well, wait a second. In my head, I guess I don't have a great conception of his career, because I know him more in like, what was it, like the late 40s, early 50s. And he seemed like, when did Casablanca come out?
42, the next year.
The next year. So yeah, I guess like he must have reinvented himself is what happens through a movie like this.
Yeah. Because it kind of helps explain, like, before I knew really much about Bogart, and I would be watching these old movies and be like, this guy's so old. How is he the leading man? And
he's so old. Like in A Lonely Place, I was like, God, this guy's old.
He's on his deathbed.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those films too where, and this is where this is where I want to get really controversial.
Yeah.
Because I have to, because here's the thing. The movie's a great movie. I don't think anybody would argue that. There's no argument against the 1941 version. It's also, like you said, the perfect idea of a remake. The 31 version is a complete mess. It doesn't really make sense. The cinematography is poor. The acting is like all over the place. But I don't know if that's a time period thing. Ricardo Cortez is interesting as a lead man, but like doesn't really offer like layeredness to what he's doing. I mean, like Bogart can look on the screen for 30 seconds and give you more than Cortez gives the entire film. So there's that going on. So I think that there's no argument that like the 41 version is a great remake. What I find confusing about it, and I think one of the things where I can't wrap my head around is, and we talked about this a little bit last week with A Fistful of Dollars.
Mhm.
where that scene is like a really important film in film history. And this happens every so often where we hear this, and then, in contemporary times, we go back and watch these films, and either it clicks with you or it doesn't. And for me, A Fistful of Dollars clicked. I was like, oh my God, I totally get why this is so important and so interesting.
And for me, it didn't.
And for you, it didn't at all. I think it's kind of the reverse here with Maltese Falcon. I've tried multiple times.
Yeah,
I'm super
because
into
you
noir
are a
films.
huge noir guy, and like
Love noir.
yeah,
Like I love it, love it, love it. The big thing for me, and I think it actually speaks to the quality of the film and why it's an important movie, is that like it's not. I would argue that it's more proto noir than actual noir, in the
okay,
sense
sure.
that it's really kind of an adaptation of crime, police, murder mystery type stuff, done in a really fascinating way. That sort of hard boiled, pulpy from the novel sort of aspect. This guy used to work for Pinkerton, like he knows like the underground or whatever, so he has a good idea of real criminals and real sort of awful human beings, the underbelly of the world. So that is infused into this story, where it, because when you say noir and we say that genre, we think of double indemnity, Detour, the big ones, Sunset Boulevard, Night in the City. I love throwing that one out there. It doesn't have the same vibe at all. Third Man does not have that vibe. Like that, I think that's the thing that I keep on getting stuck on, because when I watch something like Third Man's a great example because everybody's seen that. It's a famous movie. It's one of the biggest noirs ever made. When you watch that film, there are certain aspects to the story, to the narrative style, obviously to the cinematography of it, that are so vastly different than what we see in the Maltese Falcon. The
Sure, yeah,
Maltese Falcon, it reads to me like a really good, almost like Sherlock Holmes murder Agatha Christie type thing, but like grimier.
yeah.
It doesn't seem to me all that much more than that.
So the thing that has always drawn me back to it, that I don't that I get on the surface why it doesn't read, especially because I think not only do people have a lot of baggage with noir, people have a lot of baggage with bogey as well.
Totally, yeah.
I mean, it kind of depends. Like, do you when you think bogey, do you immediately think Casablanca, or do you think Treasure of the Sierra Madre? It's also Huston. Or do you think this Maltese Falcon? And I mean, that's what makes him such a compelling presence on screen, is that he could be read in so many different ways. And so ultimately, like, you're looking at Third Man, or In a Lonely Place, or any of these movies where it's kind of like more obvious and in your face that it's either like the hapless protagonist that's like pulled down into the gutter, or it's the really like self-defeating, self-destructive private eye, right?
Yeah.
Here it's not as obvious, and I think that's one of the reasons it has so much staying power for me, is like I could watch the Maltese Falcon and I get a different version of Sam Spade every time I do, and those gradations of like, just like, wait, how much of a dirtbag is this guy? Because there's been times where I've watched the movie and I'd be like, oh man, Sam Spade's like the ideal private eye. And there are other times I watch it, like when I did the rewatch for this episode, especially because I mean, the world's like kind of dark right now. And so I was very much more like, man, there's nobody good in this movie. Like, everybody is some variation of their own dirtbag. Like, you could, I was like going down a rabbit hole, kind of thinking like, man, this is kind of like, we're just watching Trump's cabinet play out on screen amongst a bunch of like greedy, self-serving psychopaths.
Just constantly backstabbing each other.
Yeah. So I think that's part of it, is like that archetype is so wiggly in noir, which is part of the genre's appeal. And then you add bogey on top of that, who you either see, depending on your own experience, with such an iconic face, as somebody that's idealistic, and you just like root for to solve the crime and to like get the girl, versus just like I hope they all wind up rotting in prison at the end of this. And that's how it works for me. Is it's so much more about character than it is about aesthetic. And
yeah, well, it's not about that's the one thing that makes it different than, say, Sherlock Holmes or Agatha Christie, like the traditional
right,
murder mysteries, because those are
it
about
is
puzzles.
right. So this
right?
is kind of like that midway point, that bridge from detective fiction to noir. So I mean, I don't disagree. Proto noir. If you're calling it the first noir, then it kind of makes sense that it is more proto than the full thing that it becomes later on, especially post-war, right?
Yeah, no, and it's I mean, like, even in listening to sort of people talk about it and famous directors and all these other people and how much they love it, I think that, like, I found this one quote from Mary Astor, who obviously plays Bridget O'Shaughnessy. She says, "So often I've been asked, what was it like to work in a picture that was so ahead of its time? Such a departure in methods, point of view. Of course, you don't know you're making history while you're there in there making it." And I think that's the one thing that I'm having a hard time maybe pinpointing is what is the advancement here? What is the step forward? What is the great leap forward? Is it the sort of storyboarding that Huston does, which kind of mimics Alfred Hitchcock style? In terms of just like every scene, every shot has to be laid out beforehand in a very elaborate plan. Is that what makes it sort of step forward? Is it Bogart? Is it that character itself? That you don't understand the different shades of his morality. Is he an anti-hero? I think so, probably in some degree. And at the end, he turns her in. Right. Like at the end, there is, and that's the other thing that is very noir like. There is a kind of tidy end to it. It's not totally tidy. Right. It's not like everything's perfect and all rainbows, but there is a sort of more traditional conclusion to it. What do you think that it is that, like, in terms of the stature of filmmaking and film history, what is it more than anything that the Maltese Falcon sort of pushed forward? What did it really change, do you think?
Well, I mean, it is one of those nebulous things, and I think that's where these landmark films kind of almost ironically get their stature from, is that it is tough to pinpoint. Like Mary Astor said, you don't know when you're making history in the middle of it. I do think that, and this is my theory, I put in the notes here, like, this is like, I can't think of anything earlier than this in terms of American filmmaking that like you feel the voice of the director in the product.
That's a very good point.
And I think that's like huge, just like even outside of noir as a genre, outside of Bogey's clout, it's like, it's the storyboard thing. Like Hitchcock isn't even like really he's working, but he's definitely not a key player quite yet. And also that's over in Britain, but you got like, you got Murnau and all the other ragtag Europeans eating it up with style and substance. But here it's like, it is that kind of, in my opinion, perfect marriage between like, I want to tell a good story and I want you to remember this story.
Yeah.
Huston's mentor leading up to his first directorial effort was producer Henry Blank, and he recounted that the single greatest piece of advice that Blank gave to Huston was, quote, "Shoot each scene as if it was the most important scene in the film."
Yeah.
And I think that plays into what you were saying earlier about like how just tight the whole film is.
Yeah.
It really bounces from scene to scene and feels like everybody's giving their A game in each little, like that's the thing that I kept coming back to, is like, why do I want to keep coming back to this movie that's just like conversations in rooms? And it ultimately comes down to, the kind of the one distinction between theater and movies is that movies give you like a very intimate sense in a way that you don't get from a play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you do get these like really on the surface simplistic close-ups, medium shots of just like people talking in hotel rooms, in offices, wherever, like you got to make it count. And you want to make it into, to some degree, you want to make it invisible. And like, I think we talked about this briefly going all the way back, believe it or not, to our Dog Day Afternoon episode.
Okay.
Where like looking at what Sidney Lumet did there to to create that like kind of stirring emotional aspect, even though it's essentially a chamber drama, all takes place right there at that bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in part of it's a huge part of it's the acting. The cast is electric, but it's also just like you want to make it feel like you're actually there, like you're a fly on the wall. It's not like you're watching somebody's recording of this play acting of this event. And I think that's what really gets me here with the Maltese Falcon as well, is like as you know, stagey and you know conventional it is in terms of like the time period, you know, the kind of corny back and forth between Joel Cairo and Sam Spade in the office of like asking him to clasp his hands behind his back and then punching him and then it, you know, being an about face. Like it's very like very mechanical, and yet you just like you go with it no matter what, and it feels like I don't like I can't even catch my breath until the end of the movie because it's so quick and entertaining, and also like really makes me think about the nature of, you know, man's duality, like constantly trying to look out for number one but also trying to do what's right. Is it really that just like money's driving us all, no, you know, every waking hour? Is it really that, you know, there we could have some genuine feelings? I don't know. I even read this rewatch, I'm like, wait a second, maybe it's not just Gutman and Cairo and Wilmer that are gay. I mean, Sam Spade's given some gay vibes too. Like, is he just like using Mary Astor as a beard? It seems like there's so many different subtext possibilities, and that is just what makes a movie fire on all cylinders for me.
Yeah.
I don't do you like I think that's a big part of the movie's appeal, especially in the when comparing it to all the other noirs of the time.
Sure.
Do you? I mean,
Yeah, I
that's
mean, the thing that sticks out to me more than anything in hearing you sort of discuss it is that I think where I struggle with the stature of this film isn't necessarily, I think it's like a mislabeling problem. And I'm so
mm,
pedantic about words that like that's why I like struggle with, because on the surface of it, you know, it's a great film because of the work that went into it, because of the preparation, because of the performances, because of the editing, because of the writing, because of the directing. Overall, it's a very, very well done film, and it does stick with you and stay with you. And you're not the only person that can sit down and watch this thing over and over again once a year. Great filmmakers go back to this movie constantly.
mhm.
So there's something here that is special and that is unique. I would just make the argument that I think what makes it special is more what you're talking about and less the actual narrative or what it's trying to do or what it's saying.
Yeah,
It's more in the structure and the means of how it was produced. And the final outcome is this very modern, slick, fast moving film that seems like it was incredibly inspirational to, you know, most movies coming after it. I feel like if you were a filmmaker and you saw this opening night, I think it was late 41 when it came out, you know, you would see this probably be like, well, I have to go back and rewrite my script. Like I have to go back and rethink how I'm doing my entire movie because this feels so modern. And now it doesn't
yeah,
feel modern in the sense that like you watch it and like, oh, this could be made yesterday. It's modern in the exact use of cinema as an art form versus theater, as you sort of mentioned. Because before this, theater is always sort of just bled into filmmaking, right? And it's just, we're just going to shoot these scenes and, you know, this script and people are going to act. Here, I think it's especially on the editing side of things, where it's like the flow of the scenes and where they cut condenses the narrative in a way that you can only do with film. Right, that's what made film so different. It's like it's this condensation of time and emotion and power and plot, so that like in 120 minutes, or this one's even like, I don't know what, an hour and a half, you can tell this elaborate, intricate story that you could never do in theater. You could never do it.
We could never. The scene changes alone would just like take away all the pacing,
and that's
something I noticed with the 31 version too. Is like there's a lot of like awkward dead spots, like in between dialogue and scene setups. It's just like you don't get that energy, that propulsion.
No, not at all. It's not cinematic, the 31 one. And I love the fact that I think it's in your notes too, but I saw someone pointed out on one of the websites, and it's like the entire movie doesn't work because he knows who the killer is immediately. And it's like, what? I wonder if they didn't put the Chinese and like subtitles, because then that would give it away to the audience to create like whatever dramatic irony.
Yeah,
but like that's so stupid. Like it's so dumb to like do something like that. And the 31 version is clearly slapped together. It reminds me a lot of sort of like watching the movie Babylon, like when they're making movies back then, like just turn it out, like whatever, no one gets slop. People are going to show up and see it anyways, whereas the 41 version feels like an intentional work of art. And I think that to me is what makes it interesting and valuable and rewatchable. Because like to be honest with you, I can't see this as a noir film. I just can't, because it's not. Like, to me, it is not a noir film. It does not have, despite the fact you have the PI, you have the intricate plot, you have the MacGuffin, you have all these sort of things that are kind of noir-y and part of that world, but that's not what noir is to me.
What do you think it's not until like post-war, like 44? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's more of a post-World War II thing. I mean, Double Indemnity came out, what, 44?
Yeah.
That's really, I mean, there's obviously movies before that sort of feel that way. But if you look at like the height of it's like 49, 50. This definitely like leads into it, but again, it only leads into it in sort of like surface ways.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what was in 43?
What's that?
Hitchcock's Shadow of a Doubt.
Shadow of a Doubt. Noir. Definitely noir, without a doubt. Mm-hmm. It's also, I think, missing that sense of melodrama. And they call it melodrama in like the reviews, but I'm sitting here watching it. It doesn't feel, it's not Shadow of a Doubt. There's not that, ingrained emotion that movie has, where you're watching it like, oh my God, I feel like crazy watching this. I never felt that once watching Maltese Falcon.
Well, I would make the argument for the end, going back to like your like nice and tidy, like this is the stuff dreams are made of, like that, when the strings swell, that's just legendary. But I will cede the point that, for much of it, it does have more of the DNA of like I don't know. I keep thinking about Aaron Sorkin when we talk about like the energy and propulsion here, like good Sorkin, like, to be clear,
it's like the
Social
ping
Network.
pong dialogue. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, the one thing I will say that, that adds a layer of definitely proto noir-ish feeling is the fact that it's a fake, right? Like it's not a real thing. They're going after this obviously illusory sort of desire for money and wealth and power, and of course it always slips away. Definitely noir. Mm-hmm. It's just the way that they do it doesn't click to me in sort of in the traditional noir sense.
It would be interesting to see. Well, actually, just starting that sentence, I was going to say it'd be interesting to see like a heavily stylized filmmaker take on a reimagining today. But
I think you could totally do it. Like I feel like this is remake ready and worthy right now.
Yeah, but it also made me think about like one of the things that catapulted Rian Johnson's career was Brick, which had both the quick pacing of the hard-boiled dialogue as well as the heavily stylized like slow motion shots. And stuff that would become more a part of the genre later. And I also think that like that is another element that feels like if you had just put it in there, it could have changed the game. And I wonder how intentional it was on Huston's part to not. There's no narration here. There's not like even like Sam Spade, that character is known to narrate both in fiction and on film.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems very deliberate here that it's not. Like that would once again take away from the propulsion of the scene to scene energy, but it would also more firmly place it in this kind of like contemplative, like almost introspective kind of noir that became more of a hallmark of the genre later, even if it more in like a kind of corny and comic book sense, you know?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing though, like I have to admit, it does have all of these elements that you would, consider to be part of that whole genre. Like the most important thing is the femme fatale,
Right.
Like she is a murderer,
Yeah.
right? She does play him, and he doesn't really know what's going on, and ultimately turns her at the end. But that's definitely a style or a very core genre element. I don't know. Like I think that I don't know. I come back to my thesis. I think we do this movie a disservice by trying to make it the beginning point of noir. I actually think it's more important than that, right? Because I think the noir thing is its own little world. That is important and has its sort of touchstones. But Maltese Falcon stands outside of it to me as something like a little bit more of a transition into modern filmmaking. That has all these attractive, amazing things about it, but it doesn't have to necessarily start a genre to be amazing. You know what I mean?
Right. And I mean, to use another 41 corollary, I mentioned it briefly earlier, but Citizen Kane, I think, often gets treated in a similar fashion where the stature or the reputation precedes it, right? Orson Welles was doing so many revolutionary things there that unless you like turn it into a laundry list or do a deep dive on these individual elements, whether it's deep focus or non-narrative storytelling or whatever, it's going to feel like, oh, it's just a movie about a guy that died and it was kind of sad and he was a tyrant, right? Like it does feel like often, and that's kind of how I felt, like you mentioned, with Fistful of Dollars, and that's the danger I think with letting some of these films become so prominent in talking about movie history. Actually, that now you mentioned Double Indemnity, that was one where I watched it the first time. I was like, I don't get the hype.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then,
me too. I was the same way with it. Yeah,
but then I
like,
came back. I came back to it on a lark after like some other similar movie about like insurance fraud, and I gave it another shot. I was in a different mood. I didn't have as many high expectations that time around, and then I just got sucked in. I was just like, what? How is this the same movie I watched a few years ago?
It's so true though. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like Double Indemnity is such an American movie. Like it only could be made in America about Americans because it's so about all the psychology that we share, ironically.
And I would argue the same thing with Maltese Falcon. Like it's not as on the nose in terms of like the narrative, but like,
well, there's that desire.
There's
like that extreme individual desire for, and there's no sense of community, no sense of brotherhood or sisterhood or empathy. It's always like me. That's so American. I mean, that's an American 101. One thing I do, because it's the last episode of the season, I'm tossing this at you like an audible. In terms of like successful remakes versus not,
I wanted to do this too. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go through them one by one and like to see what we say like 2020s all the way back down, successful or not? Let's do it. Okay. So the 2020 show we did, Nosferatu. I think that like the 2024 version it's okay, but not successful to me. Not a successful remake
agreed.
is kind of what I come down on. Why do you think? Why do you? It just doesn't work, right? Or it's not. It's not needed. It's unneeded. It's an unneeded remake.
Yeah, I think the realization we made around the middle point of that episode is like, oh yeah, he's so concerned with detail and ornamental and vibes, right? Like,
Yeah, it's a vibe movie. It's a Zoomer movie.
It's not attempting to do any kind of like expressionism, like iconography. This is not a revolutionary artist. I'm sorry. I like Eggers for a lot of reasons.
He's wonderful. He's one of my favorite filmmakers, but
he's
that's not
a revolutionary.
It's just unneeded remake. True Grit. Yeah. What do you think? I think it's better.
Yeah, totally. And you weren't even a huge fan.
No, I don't love
the 2010 version.
But the 1969 version is like, ugh, God, bizarro film that has any stature whatsoever. Dawn of the Dead is a really interesting one because I'm going to say this: it's not a remake. Like I don't count it as a remake because it's not
reimagining.
Yeah, like they said that in the start of the production notes. Yeah, it's like not. It's not really trying to do anything the original's doing. It's not, it's vaguely inspired by it. What are your thoughts?
Yes. I mean, I'd agree. I'd also say that it, after we recorded that episode, I like had some student who's like a horror freak was like, yeah, we should watch Dawn of the Dead. And I was like, please tell me which one. And he was like 78. And I was like, okay, good.
Oh, thank God.
So I was like, oh, like the kids are okay. Like I feel like I was kind of pessimistic. Like Zack Snyder just like ruined this whole like,
ruined Romero's legacy.
right. But maybe not. I think it's a largely atrocious film that's arguably fun in a stomach churning kind of way. But it's definitely
a dumb throwaway movie.
It's not, So we're kind of ping-ponging back and forth. Nosferatu, original. True Grit, remake. Dawn of the Dead, original. Cape Fear.
I gotta go with the original.
And I gotta go remake. So that's
I can see that because the remake is so bizarro and nuts. It's definitely more up your alley. Like it's just the original one is very studious. A word? That's a word, right? I don't know. Like it's just very like. It's safe. It's a safe kind of fun thriller. Yeah. It's got Robert Meacham, who's son Gregory Peck. They're so good at just showing up and like soaking up the entire scene that like I really enjoyed the 1962 version of Cape Fear.
It's a little bit better than the 31 Falcon.
Oh, that's insulting. Cape Fear 1991 is one of the strangest films ever put on celluloid.
Oh, there's lots of things wrong with it, but that only increases its likability for me.
The last like 15 minutes of that is unwatchable. 1980s, we did The Fly. This one's easy.
It's a no-brainer.
I mean, Cronenberg is king. So the 86 version, I think, is far, far superior to the original. The next one's easy too. I think King Kong. I don't like either of them.
No, me neither. But the original, original was going for iconography. The 76 one was going for a cash grab.
I also, the one about the 76 one that still blows my mind is like it really is a memory hole thing. Like
I know. I don't know how that movie exists.
Yeah. No one remembers it. Fistful of Dollars, Yojimbo. I love Fistful of Dollars, so I got to go with Fistful of Dollars.
Split, and I don't. No, I do love Yojimbo. I love Yojimbo, especially because it's got Mifune's best performance in it.
Yeah.
Even if I don't love the story,
it's kind of all over the place what we're seeing.
There is no hard and fast rule. I think I don't know when it comes to like remaking as a motivation, going back to my original point about Falcon and Huston being like, yeah, these two suck, I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna do right by the source material. And so I feel like that's what
it's a good origin
Cronenberg's trying to do. That's what the Coen brothers are doing.
True Grit 100%, going back to the source material, the novel. I think what The Fly is different is that like the source material there is like what short stories, right?
Yeah, it was a short story, but also
um,
you could do the Dawn of the Dead card on that one too, kind of more of a reimagining,
exactly.
right?
And it's like that's what it is. The Fly, well, the Fly works to me is that the origin story is not that interesting, but like he just takes it. It's Cronenberg. He's crazy. He's
Yeah.
totally nuts.
Yeah.
He's nuts in a way that like maybe Snyder's kind of nuts in a way, but like not as good as an artist, so it just doesn't work as well.
Yeah.
And then like Nosferatu is the perfect example of just like you just don't do, like there's no point.
Yeah.
You know, like there's
though Herzog's 70s version does do something different with it.
You know,
so I don't. Yeah, I still think there's no hard and fast rules. You shouldn't.
I mean,
stay
you got to
away.
do something new. It's almost
Right.
like oftentimes they do something new by going back to the source material and like not reimagining, but like reconnecting with it in a different way or being more honest with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, do you think that maybe this can be a way to get us to trivia? Is there any kind of like genre through thread here? I mean, westerns. A western becomes a western. A vampire movie becomes a vampire movie. The only kind of outliers there are The Fly. 58 kind of is like a B monster movie. Becomes
shocker.
This like psychological gonzo flick, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And
Fly's so genius. 1986 version.
Jimbo, the samurai movie, has western influences. Becomes just like a straight up western, spaghetti western, but still very much.
I wouldn't call it straight up western. It's pretty bizarre. Like,
did we do this conversation last week?
Of course we did this conversation. I spent like 12 minutes defending this movie and how weird it is. Like, it's just bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, Leone is kind of a gonzo.
Yeah,
like Cronenberg.
Tossed that together in the deserts of Spain. No one had any idea what was going on. That's why it's amazing. The Maltese Falcon is just sort of like, I don't know. It's the crime stuff. I feel like the crime stuff's actually easiest to remake. Because it's just got, and even Huston said this about making the Maltese Falcon in 1941. He's like, I have this great book.
Yeah.
Right. I don't need, we didn't have to spend a ton of time. He did, though. Obviously, he's a perfectionist here, but like he had the plot points totally mapped out for him and the dialogue. It's very easy to take that. We see that with like The Departed. That's a remake.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the crime films, it's definitely easier to do. Horror's weird because it's less about plot and more about like what you're infusing the horrific images with, of that time period. So it's a little bit, and I think westerns are a little bit easier just because it also feels very plot driven. But it's also like, I think in the failures, if you look at like, I think King Kong, Dawn of the Dead, Nosferatu, like you look at King Kong and it's like, well, you can't recreate the 1930s moment.
Right.
Can't do it in the 70s. It's so different. It doesn't work. Dawn of the Dead is like one of the situations where it's like you watch the original, took none of it, what it was really about, and just like regurgitated like images.
Yeah. Snyder just watched it and was like, okay, Mall.
But you know what I'll say? But you know what I'll say is that like the closest connection I have to this is going to feel so awful. I'm saying it though. Is Dawn of the Dead? No, I can't say it, but I'm going to. Dawn of the Dead and Nosferatu remakes kind of similar.
You're right. You're right
in the sense that like Schneider clearly does not understand anything about Dawn of the Dead, the original. Eggers loves the original Nosferatu, understands it backwards and forwards, but got completely blinded by his love for that film.
Lost in the sauce.
Totally forgot what made it interesting.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of like, okay.
And you could also, that's another whole thing here is like, Scorsese also, grew up loving Cape Fear. And so it's interesting that whether or not you get lost in the sauce in a good way or a bad way, it definitely happens. So maybe if there's a lesson there, it's like, be careful. You might not want to remake this thing that you love.
Yeah.
And pull more of a Huston of like, hey, I don't want to remake this thing that sucks. I want to make this thing that I love. And that's also like part of like the weird Nosferatu thing. That's kind of the strange like remake syndrome that we've kind of like pulled ourselves into. It's like a wormhole. It's like why Nosferatu's Dracula? Like, why do you?
It's been remade 10 billion times.
Exactly.
Right? Like, there's no reason to go by. I think it also, like, there's some sort of truth there where if the original film is foundational in a way, King Kong, Nosferatu, Dawn of the Dead, you can it's engaging with it at your own peril.
There you
Because
go.
it's just there's not much there's nothing you could have added to Dawn of the Dead that's going to make it better. Sorry, like, it's a masterpiece. Like, same thing with Nosferatu. Like, it's kind of very similar situation.
Yeah. Can you imagine Nosferatu though having a credits sequence like Dawn of the Dead?
That's not to say, like, if Brandon Cronenberg wanted to remake Nosferatu, I'd write him a check. I'd
What
be
if
like,
he wants to
hey.
remake The Fly?
No, absolutely not. Get out of here. Get out of here with that. Crimes of the Future. Do that one again. Just like
No,
your dad.
leave it alone. It's perfect. Let's do some trivia, Dan, to close out this very fun season. I've got
you went with noir, huh?
Yeah. So these are all noir remakes.
I've seen a lot of these, not all of them, most of them.
Yeah, and we have actually done episodes on 2 of them.
Desperate Hours and
Body Heat.
Body Heat. I forgot we did Body Heat. Which, by the way, some nerd on Reddit, on the box office Reddit, is going through, like, films that have doing cinema scores for every year.
Yeah.
That had, like, a D cinema score. Body Heat.
One
of the lowest of the 80s. Amazing.
Oh, it's so good though. Okay, so I'm going to read you an excerpt of a review for 5 of these noir remakes, and you got to see if you can guess it based off of the collage of movie posters you have in front of you.
Okay.
Number 1. I'm coming in hot. This is from the San Francisco Chronicle. Oh, no, my bad. I'm going with the Austin Chronicle.
Mick LaSalle, my boy?
No, he wasn't working then. Which one did I want? No, I want to go with this one. Yeah, okay. So it's Austin Chronicle. Okay. A reprehensible movie from just about every perspective. It tries to justify the behavior of its lead character as something grounded in principle, but make no mistake about it, this is the act of a man who can't bear the thought of losing.
Can't bear ransom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Give
me back my son. Give me back my son. God, I love that. The movie's so bad. I saw it like multiple times in the theater.
Oh man, I wore out the VHS.
Why? I don't know why that movie is so something about it.
I think that's another one that just like clicks. Like Ron Howard, for all his terrible attributes.
I celebrate Ron Howard. Like, he's a very incredibly nice man. Everybody says nothing but great things to say about him in the industry.
Right. And he makes fine movies.
Very fine movie. Have you seen Apollo 13? Come on.
Oh yeah. Okay. Good work. Number 2. Oh, this is from our guy Richard Brody, New Yorker.
Love him.
The film's overbearing effort to say something serious about society at large seems to force the director's hand. It pushes him to up the razzle-dazzle in order to keep the didactic element entertaining. The result is a movie that is bloated in length, literal in its messaging, and over-decorated like a cinematic Christmas tree.
Nightmare Alley.
Nice
Let's
one.
go.
Oh, gosh. Del Toro, how could you?
I haven't seen it.
It's bad. It's stupidly bad.
Who's the male lead?
Bradley Cooper. That's part of the problem.
Gross. You should stick to movies like Burnt. Is that a movie?
Yeah. Burnt?
I don't know. It just popped into my head.
First and last Burnt reference on this podcast. Okay. You're killing this. Number 3. This is from Seattle Post Intelligencer. If they gave an Oscar for the most unnecessary movie of the year, the award for this year would go to this movie, the latest product of Hollywood's current mania for remaking successful recent foreign films.
Diabolique?
Good guess. I tried to get you with that one, but no.
Yeah, I figured you would. Recent foreign films. Perfect Murder?
Nope.
God, that was my first guess. Kiss of Death?
No. I mean, maybe you haven't seen this movie, or it's original. The original was actually made by the director, I forget his name now for whatever reason, brain fart, the guy who made Fifth Element.
Oh yeah. Luke, right? Luke.
Yeah, Luke's sexual assaulter thing. Whatever.
Point of No Return?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Yeah, La Femme Nikita. That's the American.
that's a remake of La Femme Nikita.
Yeah, yeah. Bridget Fonda tries so hard, but it's.
Is she a good actor? I don't know.
I don't know.
She's like
she might just be a
very fair
Fonda.
weather. Yeah.
Okay, that was a little tricky, but I think you got this one. Number 4. Although the director does a workmanlike job of stirring in the grimy New York atmosphere, the picture only surges to life when its strident supporting star comes on camera.
Strident supporting star. Talented Mr. Rip? No.
No.
Take that back. I take it back. Perfect Murder?
Nope.
Kiss of Death.
There you go.
Okay.
Well,
New York.
how do you have David Caruso as the lead and Nick Cage as the supporting? That's an absurd
I don't
choice.
get Caruso. I just
No.
never understood him. I don't really get the vibes.
I mean, TV, whatever, but the big screen, no thank you.
Yeah.
And last but not least, number 5, from the San Francisco Examiner. I hate to whine, but if this lead actor is half as tired of playing yuppie scum as I am of watching him do it, then he must be napping on a regular basis by now.
Perfect Murder?
Yeah, that's about Mikey D.
Exactly. It's post the game, right?
Right, yeah. Maybe it's the same year, actually. Perfect Murder was 90.
Oh, wait, maybe it's before?
Perfect Murder.
98, I want to say.
98, yeah, you're right. The year after the game.
The year after the game. Oh, man. I'm sad you didn't pick The Big Sleep with Meacham because I just watched that like last year.
Oh, did you? Okay, I haven't seen it, and I could not find a good quote.
Yeah,
oh, really? Good. That's too bad.
It's like nearly unwatchable.
Oh, it's almost like Robert Meacham can't carry a film sometimes.
Well, I think he's old cashing in. Shot in London, I want to say.
Yeah, late 70s.
Yikes. Everybody's got tax problems, and they got kids and then grandkids, so bills don't stop.
Well, Dan, this has been quite the season. And we don't know when we'll be back, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm moving again, folks. So we'll see. Maybe this summer we'll be back, but it's going to be a little bit of a longer hiatus probably. But we'll be back with something fun. I don't know. I don't even know what's going on this summer. I have not been paying attention to movies.
It's a weird summer, man. It does not seem like there's anything big coming out.
Everything is bombing.
Right.
Everything is like the Snow White just bombed, did like 43 million over the weekend. It's a disaster. This is one thing I've been looking at in terms of like films and stuff, but like the box office was supposed to come back after the pandemic. It hasn't at all.
I know.
So I don't know how long this is going to last, the whole movie theater thing. I just don't know that people are going to do it.
I don't know. They just got to just make better movies. I mean,
or put them on TikTok.
Oh my God. I just had a student tell me that he watched an entire movie in 90-second increments.
I love that. See, I find there's nothing wrong with that. I also feel like Pippa, my partner, she was watching a TV show on Instagram Reels, I think, or Facebook Reels or something, whatever it is. And I was like, it's kind of genius. So maybe, Film Trace will become Real Trace, and we'll just talk about Instagram Reel shows that pop up.
Find a new co-host, sir.
It's going to be amazing. Anyways, thanks for listening. This has been Film Trace.